So welcome back, y'all. On today's episode of this damned old truck, we're going to be working on the door skins, the inner and outer door skins. You kind of seen in the other videos when we were working on the hinge pockets. Obviously, the bottom of these doors, and it's pretty common, is pretty much toast. So we're going to start with the right hand side one. In the other video, I think I mentioned that we originally thought that maybe the door was sprung, maybe it'd been hit. I don't think that's what it is. We did some work on these hinges. I think what it was our hinge alignment relative to one another wasn't exactly right. So I spent some time. I copied the other side on what those degrees were, best we could tell. Duplicated it on the right side. The door fits a lot better. It still wants to spring at the very end. It wants to spring. So I think I've still got an alignment issue, kind of going between these two hinges. I think what they're doing when it gets close to the end, they're kind of, because they're not perfectly aligned, they're kind of working against each other, and that's what's causing it to spring. But the other problem we have with this door is there's so much rot down here. This door flexes really bad when you put any pressure on it on this bottom part, because this inner support, what you're looking at here, is an inner support. The skin actually comes over the top of that. Comes over the top of that. Kind of see down in there a little bit. But it's completely gone here in this corner, and it's supposed to be right here. Look, you can see a couple spot welds that are supposed to be there that just aren't. So I think that's affecting the way the door wants to close too. So we made the decision. What we're going to do is go ahead and do these bottom door skins and tinker with it that way. So what I did, this was on the truck. I just took it off. So what I did was I just measured up. I just made a reference point. I just picked 8 inches. So I just measured off the bottom of the door here and over here. Just made a straight line. So this way, this 8 inch doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's just a reference point. So when I decide how far down I'm going to cut this off, I can use that as a reference point. And then when I put the door back on there, or when I get ready to set my new door skin or inner door skin, I'll know that that distance should be 8 inches, and that'll get me close. But so once I get it close, I'll put it back on the door before I final weld it and verify that everything looks like it's going to be in the right place. So let me go ahead and clean this up a little bit, and I'll come back and kind of show you where we're at. Okay, so one of the things that I realized is on this new panel, you look at this side, it's not cut out, it's not notched out for the hinge pocket. All right, so taking that into account, where I decided to cut the old one out, is I just randomly selected. It's about 7 inches, right? So 7 inches from the bottom to this line. So because of this reference mark, I was able to go down through here and just measure off 1 inch off of there all the way down. That gives me at least a parallel line. I don't know if it's exactly true to the door or not, but it really doesn't matter, because that still leaves me plenty of. So when I get ready to cut this panel to fit, I've still got plenty of meat. But again, that's one of the handy things about having a reference line. Again, it's completely random. It doesn't really have any bearing on anything. It's just a known point on this door. So what I'm going to do is the easiest way to get these things off of here is to take a grinder, because this door skin, the way they did this, it comes out and it rolls over, right? So this thing just rolls over. So the easiest thing to do, or I think the easiest thing to do, is take a grinder and just grind this down all the way down, and basically come all the way around. And basically what that'll do is that'll just separate the actual outer door skin from this part. So it'll just be kind of hanging there. That I'm not going to try to worry about trying to undo these spot welds and all that, because I'm not saving this door skin either. So the door skin, I have a new door skin on it too, and I'll go over what that looks like when we get there. But anyway, so the next step is take a grinder, grind all this off, and kind of separate this from the door skin. Nothing too exciting, nothing real technical. So go ahead and get on with that and come back to you. Okay, so we took the grinding wheel, like I said, and just ground off this edge, and what it'll do is it'll start popping loose. Get this over here. Camera to focus a little bit. You might have to go back and touch it up in a few places, but essentially, you can see it's kind of about ready to separate there. That. And if you're doing, sorry, I got off there about that. Sorry about that. If you're not having to do the inner door frame or inner door skin, it's a good way to if you had to do just the outer skin, it's a good way to do it and not really destroy, mess up your, oh, my camera's not focusing here. Anyway, that's the way to do it. It's kind of tough to do it single handed. Leave it. Let me go through here and do that. But that's the idea, right? So it'll just I don't know what the hell is going on with my autofocus. It's not focusing. But anyway, that's the idea. So let me go ahead and use both hands and kind of get this thing fully separated, and then we'll come back and figure out where we're going to cut and separate this inner part. So like I said earlier, this new panel isn't cut out for what's going to be the hinge pocket, and it's kind of hard to get because I know that's not straight. That's my cut line. I know that's not straight. It's kind of hard to get anything square on this thing. So what I did was I just used this as a reference point. So I measured from here over to here. It's about 3 1/4 inches, and from here, that same pocket, down to here, which is about 5 7/8. So that'll give me some reference point when I go back and fit this thing in, and where I need to cut this flange out once I get it loaded up. So, always try to think about this stuff before. Don't do like I usually do and go, man, I sure wish I would have gotten that last little measurement. But one of the things to keep in mind is, like I mentioned before, this is the inner structure for this thing, and this thing runs all the way up to the top of the door. So, and I didn't realize that, and again, here's one of those mistakes I made. So when I cut this access hole out a long time ago, I actually cut into that structure. So, so not to repeat that mistake, I just gave me a reference point, reference mark here. So when I do cut, use my cutoff wheel, I'll know I need to just kind of go up, not cut all the way through this. I don't want to cut all the way through that if I can help it. And then, so now I think I'm pretty much ready to cut. All this is just a little bit more grinding, and all this is all that kind of came loose all the way around. So I've got it marked over here. So now it's just a matter of taking the cutoff wheel and kind of being careful and getting this as straight as I can, and then develop my cuts for that too. So, all right, we'll get that going and come back. All right, so finally got this thing cut off. So because of this inner structure, there's a bunch of spot welds, and I don't think I found them all. So just kind of cheated. So I cut the door off so I could get to this area. Kind of found some of my spot welds and just basically just started kind of just cutting around on this thing. So I got this piece off, which exposes that damn thing. So now I've got to go through here and kind of figure out where we're still attached, and kind of keep massaging this a little bit to all this from this point there all the way around here comes off. And I found that using a screwdriver and just kind of pecking around and figuring out where it's still at, it gets kind of tough to find them sometimes. But I use a regular standard plug cutter. I'll do a little pilot hole just to get it started, and I use my plug cutter and just keep going until we get them all out, and then we can come back and figure out what we're going to do with this little jewel. All right, hang in there. All right, we're back at it. So we got all the spot welds cut off. There's 2, 5, there's probably 6 or 8 altogether that in this area. There might have been some more, but rust did us a favor here. So anyway, so now we've got this thing exposed, and kind of as with the door bottom itself, it gets less rusty from about here up, but this is all gone. And what it does is it's kind of ribbed here, and then as it comes around here to this horizontal piece, then it flattens out. So I think this is going to be one of those things we're going to have to reproduce. I'm going to have to think about this and kind of maybe smoke a cigar on this deal and figure out exactly how I'm going to go back about recreating this, because I need to match that profile pretty close on the new piece just so I could marry it up to this piece. And maintain that, but you can see that this, I don't know if you can see it or not, but when I cut through this, it made this a little weaker. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and clean this up, spot weld this, get this back solid, and then start trying to fabricate some kind of a piece for this. But we'll keep following through on this. We'll just stick with it, and I think the first thing I'm gonna do is just clean it up, just so I know what I'm looking at and have a better idea how this thing was put together. This shepherd hook thing, I don't know exactly what you want to call that, but that's going to be kind of interesting to try to figure out. And then obviously this is a pretty critical piece, because this is where the door mounts to. So there's going to be a lot of this. Whatever we put here is going to have to be pretty substantial. So, all right, let me work on this a little bit, and I'll come back when I've got a brilliant idea. Talk to you. Bye. All right, so we got this thing cleaned up a little bit. Got some of the scale off of it, not all of it, but some of it. And just about like everything else on this truck, this piece is running in probably 2 or 3 different directions. So it's flat across here, it appears, or true to this way. But when it makes this curve, it looks like it's got a slant to it, right? I don't know if you can kind of see it in there, like that, which makes sense now that you look. When I look at the inner panel, it's sloped down too. So not only are we going to have to recreate all these curves and everything, now we got to get this. We got to get that right, and it's got to end up at exactly the right spot, because the bottom of the door gets spot welded to that inner brace. So your first instinct is to just cut this piece off, put it on the bench, and start trying to reproduce it. But I think what I'm going to do, instead of doing that, I believe the right way to do this is start making this up. And I don't have a metal brake. I don't have stretchers, shrinkers. I don't have any of that stuff. But I think I can redo this and reproduce this. And the way I'm going to do is I'm going to do it one piece at a time. I'm going to make this top piece, cut that out, get it looking about right. Then I'm going to treat this as one piece, and then go in here and figure this little tunnel out, make that as a piece, and then the bottom piece, and then this bottom flange that goes that way. So we're just going to try to do it, kind of like the Johnny Cash song, do it one piece at a time. But I think what's going to end up happening, because back here is where it starts to flatten out. It doesn't have any more of this contour and this ribbing. So what I'm going to do is make my pieces and just figure out a point right here where I'm going to say, okay, from here out is going to be flat, and just do it like that. So and then once I get it mocked up and get it right, then I will think about how I'm going to cut this piece off and weld the new one in place and not lose any geometry on it. So we'll kind of keep pacing through this and updating you on how that's going, just see what kind of problems we run into. I'll show you the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I'm sure we're going to make mistakes on this, but we'll keep going on it. That's all we can do. Thank you. Okay, so we're back working on this inner support for this right-hand door, and like I talked about earlier, this original piece has a rib in the middle of it, I guess to gain it some structural integrity and all. But and then as it comes around this corner, it starts to twist out like that, and it keeps going. But this section's flat. So I got to looking at it and trying to come up with a way to recreate that rib in a curved piece, and then tail off flat at an angle. Just got to be a little bit too much. So what I figured I would do is I got a piece of 1/8 inch flat stock, 2 inches wide, which is it's going to work out just about right. So what I did was I took it and I started marking about where my radius start, and then I worked on this little gizmo over here, and I got this off of Fitzy's Fabrication. Really good channel. You guys ought to check it out, man. He does some guy's amazing. So I built one of these things, and it's really come in handy. Now the 1/8 stock it's a little tougher to bend, so it took a little while to get this right. A little twist and bang and beating and everything, but so we got it pretty close. So it makes a little jog right here, kind of comes in and then it goes flat. So my idea is I'm going to tack weld this, just kind of get that so it stays, and then I will cut, when I get ready, I will cut this right along here, and then I'm going to get as much weld in there as I can on both sides. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of just this little faceplate like this, I think I'm going to make a triangular piece like a gusset that goes from here all the way to this corner with probably 16 gauge, and do that on the front top and on the top and the bottom of it here. And then once I get that made up, then I can cut this piece out, and then we'll take some measurements. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that yet, so I've still got my reference marks up there, so I guess I could use those. But some way come up with some way to figure out how to put this thing right back in the same spot, because it is important. I mean, it's gonna affect the way the lower inner door skin goes and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to get this thing back in the same spot. And I think that'll be, with this 1/8 flat stock and the gussets, I think it'll be plenty strong to still maintain the rigidity on the door and all that. So I'm gonna take a little break here, but I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna spot weld, like I said, spot weld this, get this done, and then make my gusset. Make sure I'm centered up here and see if that gusset's going to go on the inside of this part or if it's going to lap over the outside. I don't know exactly which way that's going to go. This is just a little bit more narrow than I kind of needed, but I think if I can split the difference, I think I can come on the outside with the gusset, and it'll give me the right thickness. From what I can tell, it doesn't look like the door skin. I may be wrong about that, but it doesn't look like the door skin was spot welded to that part, but definitely the inner door skin was spot welded to this thing. So I'm going to have something here to spot weld my inner skin to. So it's a little bit longer, which is fine. It's not going to affect anything if it sticks out this way. You'd rather, when you're doing this, always make it a little bit longer, a little bit wider than what you need, and you always grind it off. So that's where we're at. I'll keep going forward. When I get this gusset made up, I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, we're back. So I went ahead and welded that little kick out there, welded that, ground that down, and I just spot welded it. I clamped it and just spot welded it. I had to get the clamp out of the way, so it matches the profile pretty well. Pretty happy with that. I welded it on the inside and the outside. So got it clamped in place. As you can see, we're a little bit off the bottom. But I think by the time we put this plate on, drop it down a little bit, and we'll put that bottom plate on, I think we'll be real close. So what I did was I got a piece of 18 gauge. This is 18 gauge. I just got it out, traced it out. I got it pretty close here. So I'm going to get this lined up a little bit here, and then I'll just spot weld it just to get it tacked in place, and then I can weld it from the inside, and then grind off any excess, or whatever I've got to do there, and then weld this outer seam too. So that'll give me a good gusset, and then I'll probably just cut it at a diagonal, go from that corner to this corner, and give it a little sweep there. So that's about it for this side. So then what I'll do, I think once I get that done, then I'll mark my edge. Probably go ahead and actually mark that now, and then I think I'll be ready once I get this thing off of here. Take some measurements and everything, but I think I'll be ready to make that cut and get the old piece out, and then line my new piece up and get it. I'll be able to weld it here, and then be able to do it from the back side as well, and then I'll be able to weld this where that gusset's going to be, weld that up there as well. And then when I get ready to do my door skin, I'll be able to weld that gusset up underneath there. So that's kind of the plan. I think this is going to provide plenty of strength for this deal. Let me go ahead and get this going, and I'll come back and kind of show you what the finished product look like right before I get ready to remove the old piece and put this new piece in. All right, so I got the inside welded up on this thing. Nothing pretty. I'll clean it up a little bit and see where I was missing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my grinder, instead of trying to grind all that down, just take my cutting wheel and try to get that closer and grind that down to pretty tight, and then I'll weld this outer seam. So then once I have it welded on the inside and the outside, that gives me plenty of material so I can round this thing off, make it look a little better anyway. But so that's it. So I'll go ahead and cut this down, do this outer edge, get that welded down, and get those cleaned up a little bit, and we'll be ready to kind of put it back on there and test fit it. Okay, so there's the outside welded around. I've got this little bit down here. I've got to fix that. I've got to pull it out of the vise and kind of grind that down and get that last little bit of weld. But Anyway, so what I did on this when I do this, grind one plane and then flip it over and grind the other plane and keep that at 90 degrees. And then once you get all that done, you can take your sander and or your I use a flap wheel, and then you can radius it all the way around. And since I welded it on the inside, I'll have plenty of material there, so I shouldn't grind through it. But that'll allow you to kind of bevel that, put a tight radius on it, and make it look a little nicer. Anyway, so that's that. I'm gonna flip this thing over, kind of finish up the grinding. I'm gonna hit the inside, try to get that cleaned up a little bit, and then I'll work on the this second face here. And then I think we should be getting pretty close. Okay, we're back at it. So here's the piece. I got it welded up on the outside and kind of radius that corner off there, and then I welded it on the inside. I tried to get in there and grind it down a little bit just to kind of clean it up and make it look a little bit better. I guess like the old guy told me one time, because if you suck at welding, you'll get good at grinding. So I don't know if I'm good at either one, but anyway, that's going to go in about like that. I guess I could have left that right there, I guess, give it a little bit more support. But overall, looks like it fits pretty well. As we can see down here, I think, it looks like I'm a little bit short, but really when you take because I'm resting on top of this, when you take that distance out, and then I'll put the cap on the outside of this one, I think we're going to be right there at it. It does look like this thing, and it might be a little bit of an optical illusion, but it does look like this thing kind of tapers up that way, which wouldn't surprise me based on everything else that's going on with this thing. So what I figured out was, so to get this thing back in the right spot, that looks like it's on a pretty even plane, which makes sense because this inner door skin is relatively flat. This bottom part of the door obviously kind of has a taper going that way. So I think what I'm going to do is when I cut this off, get my other piece back in there, it's going to be on the same plane as that. And what I did was I took a measurement for my reference mark here down to this corner here, which on the outside of this, which is 8 inches, which kind of makes sense because that's where the bottom of the door skin was sitting anyway. So I got roughly 8 inches there. So I know when I cut this part needs to be 8 inches from this, and that'll get me my length. And then if I'm even on this plane there, and then I guess going that way, I might grind these spot welds down. But you would think that these two should be fairly even there. So I'm going to grind those down just so I can make sure that that's right. But that'll get me right going this way and then going that way. So what I'm going to do is when I put this piece on there, I'll fit this up like that, roughly, kind of, about right there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe a line as close as I can right there, and then I'm going to cut on the outside of that line, because I can always trim this up and get my 8 inches from here to here, and I should be right. So I'm going to leave me just a little bit to play with in case something happens. It's not completely straight or something like that, because I don't want this cocked up or down or whatever. So take my time and figure out that scribe line, and then go on the outside of that, cut that, and then I can grind it back until I get just exactly where I want it to be, and then I will be able to do my bottom plate and make sure that this thing's in the same spot, and then be able to make my welds. Go ahead and weld it, and then that should have this inner support done. So by doing it like this way, it gives me plenty of places so I can, once I get this welded on there and get my new door skin in there, I can do a rosette weld or a plug weld. Plenty of meat right there. And like I said, I think this thing, that band right there is 1/8 inch, and that's 18 gauge there. So I think structurally this will be just as sound as this thing ever was. So anyway, feel pretty good about it. I'll keep updating this and try to get this thing wrapped up. Okay, we're back. So I got to looking at this thing and how this was gonna kind of weld on in there, and I realized that if I leave it like that, and I'm gonna
have that spine in the middle that I'm not going to have anything to weld to. So I got to looking at it, and what I decided to do was just weld me a plate on that thing. I got a little bit in there, but I just welded a plate on the end of the original inner door support. And what this will allow me to do then, I believe, is put that on there something like that. Then I can get my distance and all that, get it leveled up. But then I can weld that whole seam all the way across top and the bottom, and really get a good weld on it, because that's ultimately what I was after. So if I did it the other way, I'd only be able to weld here and across top. But now I'm gaining this whole spine and probably making this thing a whole lot stronger than it would have been doing it the way I was originally doing it. So that's the whole thing about this. If you're moving along, sometimes, at least I do, I get kind of myopic. I get focused on the way I got it in my head, and sometimes you just got to stop, sit back and take a look at this thing and try to figure out a better way to do it. Don't be afraid to do that. So then I'm going to mess around and try to figure out some way to get this held in position while I tack my corner on there, and get my distance out there, for my reference line. That I know my 8 inches has got to be out there, and I got to get it on a plane this way, and I got to get it on a plane this way. So it's going to take a little finessing, but I think with use of magnets and that kind of stuff, I can get it held in place good enough to at least get a couple tacks on it. We'll go from there, but I just wanted to kind of update you on what I did there. Like I said, it's going to give me, quite a bit more surface area. I'm not doubling anything but by any stretch, but it will give me a good bit more to weld to. Okay, I got the back side of this thing. I got that welded and ground down. Nothing too exciting. I see it inside there. It's not as substantial as this outer piece. We kind of talked about that. So before I cut the original piece off, I figured out that this is all on the same plane. So I got that done. Looks good going through there. And then I measured, using my tape measure. I think it is right here. Kind of hard to do this with one hand. I'm right at 8 inches. Let me see if I can get this right here, guys. Sorry. Hold on, now I got myself confused here. Hold on. Yep, there we go. Right at 8 inches. Got 8 inches on my line. So things should be pretty close back in the right spot. So I put a magnet across there and hold it together. I got one tack on it, so that way I can manipulate it. And also, I got a good even spacing for my that hinge pocket. Looks to be very accurate too. So I'm pretty happy with this. Excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and keep tacking this, and obviously keep checking on these things, because the more heat you put on it, they can twist a little bit. So you don't want to just run a big bead on it. I think this plate idea is going to work really well. I'm a little bit, need to nip that off right there, but not a big deal. Gaps are a little bit big, but nothing we can't handle. So yep, that's it. So I'm going to finish welding this up, and then that'll pretty much do the inner part of the door. What I think I'm going to do next is once I get this done, then I'm going to put the hinge back on here, and then I'm going to remount this thing to the door, or to the cab, and check and see if I can't get that little bit of, now that I can access this hinge really easy, let me see if I can't get that little bit of binding out of it, and kind of see where this thing's going to sit, and that'll help dictate what I do with my inner door skin, because I want to put that on next, and then I can work on my outer door skin. So I'll show you. I'll get this welded up and then ground down, kind of show you what it looks like at the end. Let you know if I ran into any other problems, and that'll close out this video. Thank you. Okay, so this will wrap this one up. So I got that welded in. So what I did was so that plate's right in the center there, right? So I welded it along the center, ground that down, then welded on either side of that to try to get pretty good burn. It doesn't look very pretty, but I think it's going to work. I got that top side, and then fix this little
deal that I had cut through when I cut the door skin off. So measured everything off. We still got our 8 inches. We're still dead flat across here. We've got our spacing for our hinge pocket. So overall, I'd say this part of it's done. It didn't go exactly like I had originally thought I was going to do. I thought I was just going to be able to fabricate this damn thing, but when you look at how they built that, that's beyond my that's beyond my skill set. So anyway, that's done. This fits in there just like it should. Overall, pretty happy with it. So now, like I said, I'll go back and I'll probably get all this stuff off of here. This is a bad habit. You should put stuff on what you're working on, but I'll go back and I'll start rehang this door and kind of see how it's acting, and then we'll start putting on this inner door skin. Probably do that off the truck, at least get it tacked up, and then when I get it back, I'll probably mount it before I do my final welding on this thing to make damn sure it's going to be where I need it to be, and then we'll do the outer door skin. So appreciate you watching. Stay tuned for the next one.